Oh, now it's preparing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Franz's Real Estate Facts, episode 14. I am kind of figuring out how to deal with technology, which is not always exactly the same as it was. I think that maybe Facebook or Zoom or something updated their API over the past couple of days, and now things have changed. So anyway, now we are here, and I am here with Jon Swann, who is a music instructor and a musician. I think his primary instrument is a saxophone. And also, really interestingly, John just moved somewhere from one part of LA to, I think, another part of LA. And what occurred to me as John was talking about moving is John has a lot of instruments. Like, he has I don't know how many instruments you have, but you certainly have a lot more instruments than I do. Um, and that it really occurred to me as you were, talking about your move that moving with instruments is different from moving with just regular stuff. Because I know a lot of people who have instruments, and I mean, I think many of them, they love their instruments more than they love their children. It's like the children can figure out what they need to do. The instruments are just like these amazing small baby children of the household. Is that right, John, to some extent?
That's a fair example. If the kid falls and scrapes their knees, you put a band-aid in it, it'll be okay. You drop an instrument, you're looking at, some money. You dent an instrument, it's gonna cost you some money. Not that it
And
doesn't
also,
cost you money with another injury, but
yeah, but then
yeah,
it's fixed and it doesn't sound the same, and it's just,
yeah, yeah. Now that said, I think it's important to care more about your kids than your instruments. It's still important to care about your instruments, though. They don't live in the corner and gather dust. Well, hopefully.
exactly. Um, So, yeah, so I think the first question that I have is since John, you are actually a professional musician, what was your experience like moving your instruments? And also, what instruments do you actually have? I know you have a saxophone and you have multiple saxophones and a ukulele, but what else do you have and what was it like moving with them?
So the instruments that I own and I have two saxophones, two ukuleles, a guitar, flute, clarinet, an accordion, a keyboard. I think there might be some others in there. Oh, and I have a trombone that I'm actually in the process of selling right now. So I have plenty of instruments. Oh, I have a bass too. Oh my gosh. And uh, and so it can be, to manage them all is it's not a full-time job, but I'm always kind of aware of them. What takes a lot of the stress out of the process of both owning them and moving with them was having hard cases. That you can not have a case, you can have a soft case, or you can have a hard case. And having a hard case is the most expensive and the most stress, the smallest amount of stress. Because moving around, it bumps into something, no problem. Um, Soft cases, a little bit more stressful. It could take a soft bump, it can't take a hard bump. And then no case, obviously, is just it's just a terrifying prospect when you're moving. So yeah, but hard cases for all my instruments. I'm also really a control freak when it comes to my instruments. And we hired movers for this move. I moved all my instruments on my own, because even in hard cases, a latch can come undone and an instrument can, spill out of its case. I'm not going to let that happen. Now I have a lot of instruments. I also have a vehicle that can carry all the instruments in one go, so it wasn't a big deal for me to just, load up all my instruments and go to the next house. Also, we only moved 3 miles away from where we were, so that was a really easy transition. So those are some of the considerations when it came to moving. A hard case, if you can afford it, do it, because you're probably not going to live in the same place your whole life, and having a hard case in the move again makes it much more stress free. And if you travel, I have some ukuleles, for example, and I travel with them, and I have hard cases for them. Soft cases, oh, it's so risky. It's so risky. first of all, never check an instrument, even with a hard case, never check an instrument. Most airlines at this point actually will allow you to carry on an instrument, no matter the size. I don't know, like, I wonder, I imagine there might be some special considerations for like a string bass or a big instrument, but yeah, never check your instrument, because again, you're giving it to people who probably could care less about your luggage. So anyway, that's my quick spiel
And
about traveling.
yes, and also I was going to say, like, although you should not, although you should love and care about your children, I think people care. They do. Many people, and I mean, I'm also a musician. I have a piano. I can tell you, like, my piano is, don't like touch the piano. Like it, I mean, I don't like it when people touch the piano without asking me ahead of time. And also, it's like it is definitely a part of the family at the very least. It's not a chair. It is, something that is significantly more valuable and significantly more important to people than, a chair or other random furniture that is in the home. Even though it is the size of furniture, often it is not furniture. So I think that's something that's really important. And I think what also comes up for me is that, a lot of times people, there's this idea of, moving with your own instruments. And I think if you own an instrument, or it is your own instrument, or somebody plays music, or has an instrument, they kind of know how important instruments are, because it's theirs and they get it. But I think the one thing is, like, if you're coordinating a move for somebody who owns instruments and you don't have an instrument, this might be really important information for you. And the second thing that also often happens is, you know, sometimes people, especially with kind of COVID, people are downsizing, or they're, moving closer to family, or they're, doing stuff with homes, or whatever. Or they're, maybe moving into a retirement community or something. And their children, their adult grown children, might be the ones responsible for figuring out what to do with their stuff. And it is really important for you to understand the importance of instruments if you are dealing with other people's instruments, or you are moving them. Um, they, for lack of a better word, they are like pets and children. Like, that is the level of care that you need to give these instruments.
Absolutely.
It,
Yeah,
it,
they're delicate.
they're delicate. They are. They have stories. They are very, very important to people who have them. Um, So, and as I kind of started talking about, like, this idea of, maybe moving, or dealing with an estate that has instruments, are there any considerations there? Like, should you just, put them out in the garage sale or the yard sale and just sell them as you're getting rid of, as you are basically liquidating your parents' house, if that's something that you might need to do?
Yeah, great question. When it comes to instruments, you may not know what you have. And so it's really important. You could be selling, at a garage sale for $20, something that's worth $2,000. And you won't know unless you get it properly valued. And if you're not sure where to start, just Google instrument repair. Repair people have an excellent idea of the value of instruments, and frequently will be selling instruments themselves. Any music store, well, I hesitate to say music stores, because it's like a used car lot. They might, like, undervalue so that they can sell it for more of a profit. Repair people, though, I found are really knowledgeable and dependable when it comes to understanding the value of an instrument. I along those lines recommend independent repair people as opposed to a repair person at a music store. And if you find the repair person who doesn't know a thing about the instrument, they'll probably know someone who does, because we're pretty well networked. So yeah, look it up. A lot of the time, instruments will they're definitely not like cars, because cars always go down in value, right? Well, I guess after a certain point they might go back up, but instruments could either go down, stay the same, or actually increase in value. My expertise is saxophone, and there's a saxophone by Selmer called Mark VI that was made in the 60s, late 60s, I believe, and it's at this point it's more expensive than some like a brand new top of the line saxophone. And it's an interesting story, actually. The manufacturers, it's a French saxophone, and the manufacturers at the time were not keeping tabs on the metal alloy that they were using to create the saxophone, and so they made some of the best sounding saxophones in history, and there's no way to reproduce it because they didn't record the metals that they used to make the saxophone. And that's part of the reason it's so valuable, because nobody knows how to recreate it. So yeah, you could be sitting on something that's worth $20, or it could be worth, in the case of a Selmer, $6,000 or more. Selmer Mark VI, I should say. So yeah, call a repair person, ask them. If they don't know, they'll find someone who knows, and they'll be able to give you a good estimate. Also, do your own research. eBay is a great place to check. Still, actually, eBay, Amazon sometimes, and a few other sites that you'll Google. Trying to think if there's anything else in that. That's it.
Awesome. Well, that's great. I really like what you said about repair people. That has actually been my experience too. Like my piano tuner also repairs pianos, but he has actually been really nice, and just is kind of like, this is kind of not working with your piano right now. But he's like, but it sounds like you got it cheaply, and I live in a small apartment.
What do you mean this is not working? What wasn't
working?
Oh,
like there was so there was like a key that was sticking, and like there was like a little twang on one of the strings. And it was right when I got the piano. Actually, I got it for very little money from a client, and she's like, you have a piano. This piano has been in my house for like, I don't know, 20 or 30 years. I don't play it. If you move it, you can have it.
What kind of piano is it?
It's an upright. It's a tiny spinet. My parents have a grand, so I go to their house when I want the experience of that. but in terms of like not having to, leave the house to play, I got like a small spinet, and it's really, it was really nice. But he was really reputable, and he basically told me, this is a new piano. I hadn't really played spinets before, and he was like, if you just keep playing it, it'll work itself out, and you'll be fine. And it did. The keys don't stick anymore. The notes don't really twang. And I was very happy with it. So repair people, really, really good piece of advice. Hard cases, piano, I don't play instruments that are portable, but hard cases seem like a good idea.
If it's portable. In the case of a piano, don't worry about a case.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're moving, though, do hire a piano mover, because they know what's up. Yeah.
And then it needs to be tuned after you move, because
a couple times, right?
Yeah. I think when I got this piano, I tuned it like maybe, I think 3 times in like the first year that I got it, and then it's pretty much held its tune after that.
Nice.
But but that's really important, just to know these things. And also, the other thing about certain instruments, I think particularly pianos are my instrument, and that's the instrument that I play. But like, for somebody who really is a pianist, like, make sure to take care of your instrument when you have it, right? Because, I might walk into somebody's house and they're like, oh, you have a piano. And then I start playing it, and it's like, oh, this is really out of tune, or whatever. So like, if you've got this like nice, beautiful piano in your house that's noticeable, then make sure it's in playable condition, right?
Well, and that applies to every instrument. With respect to piano, it's generally intonation and the action of the keys.
Right.
It all comes down to action, and it just depends on how you apply it to whatever instrument. On saxophone, for example, we have keys, and you can change the distance, how far the key goes down. And if it's if it's like a lot of work, if the springs are too hard, or if the space is too small or too big, it makes playing the instrument a pain. Actually not a fun experience. Same is true with guitars. The action, it's determined by how hard and how far you have to press down the string to get to the fretboard. And this isn't really directly related to houses, but when it comes to playing your instrument, make sure it's set up correctly and set up in such a way that you enjoy playing it and that it's easy to play. Because what's the point of playing an instrument if you're not having fun?
I know, right? And also, it's like, what's the point of doing a Facebook Live if you're not having fun?
Exactly.
And that's exactly why I brought you on. I mean, it is like some stuff about real estate, but also, I like a whole bunch of things outside of real estate. I'm not just like pigeonholed into a real estate. And I think instruments are actually just this really interesting, cool thing that kind of parallels to real estate in a lot of ways. Especially like, take care of them. They need to, they have specific things that they need, just like houses. They are like houses in many ways. And yeah, I mean.
Well, and related to what you asked me about valuation earlier, some instruments go up in value, some stay the same, some go down. The best way to make sure you're optimizing the value, you don't have a lot of the say based on whether it goes up, stays the same, or goes down. But if it's in really poor condition, obviously it's going to be more poorly valued than it could. So another part of that is taking care of it, and making sure strings are oiled. On saxophone, making sure pads aren't sticky. On piano, making sure it's in tune and that the strings aren't rusted. What else? And it's the same with like violin and viola, the string instruments. The same with the action. You want to make sure that it's easy to play and press the string down to the fingerboard. Take care of your instruments. That's really important. It's like it's like a house. It's like a car. You'll optimize the value if it's in good condition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think my last question is, since you are a musician, since you do perform, if somebody maybe they're not a musician, right? Maybe they're not, I know a lot of people who have like these really big, nice houses, and sometimes they host concerts in them, right? So if you're actually going to like have somebody play an instrument or play music in your house, or that's an experience you want to have, what might you actually want to consider in terms of the actual house?
Yeah, good question. The first things that come up are space. Do you have enough space to host people? Imagine someone with a big enough house could actually host people inside.
Right.
Probably, well, depends on the house, 20 people, 50 people, maybe. If you have a big open space, that's a great area to have people, a backyard or front yard even. What kind of music do you want to host? Is it classical? Does it need to be amplified? If not, then just hire a string quartet, and they that's a great kind of easy group to hire out. Great in an indoor setting, because if it's outside, the string players have to worry about the weather, and if the space is too big, then the sound is going to get lost. So maybe actually an outside concert might be better with like a saxophone quartet, where saxophones are much more audible,
right,
much louder than a string quartet. And you would want to have them outside rather than a string quartet, which is a bit better inside. If it needs to be electrified, amplified, do you have the equipment for that? And in the case of a house concert, if you're hiring, one or two musicians to do, let's say it's more of like a singer-songwriter situation, they'll probably have their own equipment, because all you need is a small amplifier, small mic. Musicians, a lot of time, when it has to be electrified, they will have the right equipment. You just have to provide the electricity.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. What else is there? That's all I've got right now. Obviously, if you need people to show up, unless you want it to be like a private concert.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell your friends. What else is there?
I mean, I definitely really like what you said about like considering the space. So, if you, one of the things with any instrument, and again, piano is my instrument, right? So, you actually want to have space around the instrument when people are playing it. Because if you have a piano and it's like stuck in a wall or like stuck against the wall, or you have a piano and you've got like, a really nice, plush, beautiful couch right next to it, as much as the, nice, beautiful couch absorbs you when you sit in it, it also absorbs the sound. So, you're not going to get really good sound quality. So these are things that you might want to, I think you might think about, at least with the piano.
Yeah, well, and I think it all comes down to like what's the experience that you want to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want kind of like a more, again, a classical approach where there's separation between the performer and the audience? In that case, you would need a stage, and the music needs space to breathe, and so you want to actually have, like you said, space between the audience and the performer. If you want to have a drum circle, you don't need space between, because everybody's involved, right? Yeah, it just depends on the context. What is the context? I'd say that classical approach would also apply to like a rock band. If there's a clear divide between performer and audience, then there also has to be space for performer and audience. When there's not, then they can be a little bit more integrated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's super awesome and super helpful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this was definitely an open conversation, and also we're friends and we talk to each other and we're around. So that's kind of what I was expecting. But I think like to really pull away, some of the stuff that we really talked about in terms of moving with instruments, really important, get a hard case. Get a hard case. In terms of just valuing instruments, make sure you get people who can value it, because if you're sitting on a really expensive instrument, you might not know that if you're, liquidating an estate. So just bring in people who, if you see an instrument, get it valued. And lastly, if you want to have performances in your house, you might want to just consider the spatial considerations. So like, do you need a big open room? Do you need a space where people can sit around and listen to music? And, that is honestly, just on a personal level, that really is for me how music is meant to be listened to, is, in a home, in a space with people that you can be close to, and enjoyed.
I've got one more thing that's kind of directly and then also kind of a tangent. Some cases are really expensive. You can spend, especially on bigger instruments, you can spend hundreds of dollars on a hard case. And if that's like too big of a cost, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody borrowing a case, but it certainly could be done. Because again, when you're moving, it all comes down to like the risk. What's the risk you're willing to take on here? And hard cases really mitigate the risk. Also with cases, when you're at home and you're just doing your thing and you want to play your instrument, I highly recommend leaving instruments out. Whether that's like a wall mount or something, or it has like a stand on the floor. There's plenty of guitar stands out there. Leave it out. And if you have small kids, leave it high so they can't get it. But when you leave it out, it's a reminder like, oh yeah, I've got that thing. I'm going to play that thing. When it's in a case, it takes a little bit more effort. That's kind of like a practicing hack that I use with myself and all my students. When we're in our Zooms, I don't know, Frantz, there's instruments all over the place. There's like a saxophone behind me, there's ukuleles. Anyway, I keep them all out because I want to have access to them. Yeah. Anyway, that was the last tangent.
Which is really awesome.
Yeah,
that's also true, definitely. So if you want an instrument, maybe put it in a place in your house where you can see it, just to remember that you own this thing that can make your life wonderful.
And they make great wall fixtures too. It's art.
Yes. I actually have a guitar wall mounted in my office, which I do not play, but
it looks pretty.
It is there. It looks pretty. It's nice. It's there. It's got some picks stuck into it, so it looks nice. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jon, for being with us. You talked obviously and clearly you are very passionate about music. I'm also very passionate about music, so it makes for a great conversation. But you are a music instructor, and so just as a general shout out to you, what instruments do you teach and how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, thanks, Franz. My main instrument is saxophone, but I also teach flute, clarinet, ukulele, guitar. And people can find me online, jonswann.com, JONSWANN.com. You can probably put that in the comments of this or something. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me. I've got a contact link on my site. Yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your having been here with us. And, I hope you continue to make great music. And I hope that everybody out there who either finds instruments or is looking for a house and plays an instrument is able to find a wonderful and amazing space to bring themselves joy, because music brings a lot of joy. So thank you so much for being with us. I
Thanks,
will talk to
Franz.
you later.
It's a
Bye-bye.
pleasure. All right, bye.
Bye.